northwest in Pennsylvania fall apart before they get here. At least that's the plan. And then we'll have clouds and some sunshine, and of course some downpours or a thunderstorm could certainly bubble up. But again, most of the time it won't be raining. And we'll do the same thing again on Friday. Clouds with some sun. Perhaps on Friday a better chance for downpours as a bit of an upper air disturbance swings on through, kind of enhances all of this with the tropical air that's overhead. And it's just going to be very, very humid and uncomfortable as far as the eye can see. 71 tonight in Newton, Morristown, Piscataway 72, 75 for Jersey City, Trenton, Point Pleasant. And then for Thursday, it's sunshine and clouds. Watch for a downpour or a thunderstorm. High temperatures will be in the middle to upper 80s. A few spots got close to 90 today. Wouldn't be surprised if there's enough sun that we do it again tomorrow. We do it again on Friday, and we do it again on Saturday. And then Sunday, we're going to start seeing temperatures climb up into the 90s.
Well, hi everybody. Joe Rayo here, and what you just saw was Mr. Cioffi doing a weather hit for our FiOS 1 station in Long Island.
New Jersey.
New Jersey? Was it New Jersey?
That was New Jersey.
It was New Jersey. But you did Long Island before that, right?
That's correct.
That's right. So
Two
anyway,
Long
I thought
Islands, one New Jersey.
I wanted to show you Mr. Cioffi in action here, and so you had that opportunity.
The old fossil.
The old fossil, and I'm the old geezer. I'm going to turn even more geezerish tomorrow, I suppose, or in a matter of a few hours.
Well,
we'll complete another trip around the sun.
At least with all this humidity, it keeps our face looking younger. No,
yes.
You get the I get this.
Oh, this one?
No, you get that one. You got the right one.
Oh, right.
I'm very confused tonight. That's what happens when you
take
the day off.
We've been off the air for 5 days.
That's right. You know, when we're suffering for it, and so is our audience. Sadly, they've missed us terribly. Okay.
Don't shake that, right? Is it my fault or whatever? Now I'm trying to figure out the right... Oh, there you go.
There you are. I'll put you back in the shot.
Perfect.
I'm an unselfish soul.
Perfect. Right. Now, I just figured, you know, since you were up there doing that, and I saw the everything was all set up, I just hit the live button and let everybody have a chance to see...
And why not?
See you. Do your thing.
All right. So, as Joe said, I was doing FiOS 1 News Long Island, and... I'm sorry, FiOS 1 News New Jersey, and also FiOS 1 News Long Island.
Got too many of these. Well, actually,
Joe,
doing that enough or whatever.
Right, Joe is FiOS 1 News Lower Hudson Valley.
Yes.
And we're here to tell you that it's very warm, it's very humid, and it's going to be very warm and very humid as far as the eye can see until Sunday, and then it's hot and humid.
Joe, I was coming down. It was a real adventure today. Now I know that you're further south on Long Island. I don't know how much moisture you had.
Not a drop, not a raindrop, not an ice pellet, nothing. Not a snowflake, nothing.
I headed down from Route 6 up in at the Westchester-Putnam line onto the Taconic Park where I went, and heading straight south toward our studios. And along the way, I ran through not one, not two, not three, but 4 very, very heavy downpours. In fact, so heavy that at one point I actually turned on my hazard lights. You talk about whiteout conditions in the winter.
Yeah.
I literally could not see more than 50 feet in front of the car, and I'm saying to myself, this is not good. It really was. It must have been coming down at the rate of like 2 to 3 inches an hour.
It's never fun driving in those things. The downpours today, you know, at least they were, you know, if you got them, you got them, and a lot of spots did not get them. Right. And being the fact that we've got a lot of local rivers and streams and creeks are very, very high up to Bankful. The Weather Service's River Forecast Unit has a large chunk of Pennsylvania, the northern half of New Jersey, and part of the Hudson Valley in an area where river flooding will basically occur if, you know, somebody's toilet overflows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're at that point after getting, in some places, a foot of rain cumulatively in the last 10 days.
Right.
So it's probably good that over the next several days, even though the risk of downpours are there, I tend to think that most of the time it's not raining. For some places, it may not rain a drop through all of this.
Right.
We talked about last week that the main action with the way the trough was setting up and everything else was going to be to further west, and I think that's how it's playing out. And
the interesting thing about the downpours that I went through today, on 3 occasions when I drove out of them, I mean, the rain didn't just peter out; it stopped like that. Maybe one of those situations where if you were just standing in one spot, it might have been raining, let's say, across the street, and it might not have been raining where you were. And then
Florida weather.
And between the third and fourth downpour, the sun came out, and I said, "Oh, finally! I can turn the windshield wipers down or whatever." Sun came out, then just as quickly went right back behind the clouds, and just as quickly came down again. So
they formed early this afternoon. They kind of ran into northeastern New Jersey, up through parts of the Hudson Valley, and there were a couple of other patches. They crossed over Connecticut. Long Island hardly saw a drop, if at all. Now tonight on the radar, and this is as of 9:33. So if you're watching this on a replay, it's going to be dated. So you want to check the Weather Service's latest radar on weather.gov in case there's any warnings out. I don't think there will be. Or of course you could tune in tonight on FiOS 1 News. But those showers and storms out to the west, west of 81, those are probably going to fall apart before they make it here, I think.
Right. Well, we had that situation not yesterday, but the day before, where look, for all the world, it was like mid or late afternoon, and we had a very similar scenario where we had showers in eastern Pennsylvania. My wife called up because she's also a meteorologist. She was looking at the radar, and she said, "Are you sure you're not going to call for any kind of rain in where we are in the Hudson Valley?" I said, "Well, all the models were suggesting that it was going to be too dry. That it was going to run into like a brick wall." And sure enough, within a matter of a couple of hours, all those showers and storms, just
you can't even you get to take your work home with you.
Oh, Joe,
and then get it critiqued.
I got to spend one quiet night. I'll have to tell some stories about when the two of us we met at the same weather office. We dated while we were at the same weather office.
And
we got married. I mean, like
I promise you, Joe. Whatever you tell me, I will deny that you ever said a word. When she comes at me, isn't it true, Mr. Cioffi? She goes into Perry Mason mode. I will say nothing. Okay.
Well, we used to have some really some of the sharpest arguments we ever had was over the forecast. I tell you, are you sure? I don't think I would do that. I don't think I'd go for that, Joe. Anyway. If I show this to her tonight, I won't make it to my next birthday.
Yeah, which is tomorrow. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
That's 2 hours early, 2.5 hours early. But
no, I believe in long celebrations, and
I'm not looking forward to this birthday because I will say right out. Some people say they don't want to tell how old they are. If you're a fan of MASH, the TV show MASH, and you remember Harry Morgan, the great Harry Morgan played Colonel Potter on that series. On more than a few occasions, he told everybody how old he was. Well, I'm going to be that age tomorrow. And I'm saying to myself, I'm equating myself with Harry Morgan, who even when he was a young man, looked like an old man.
Well, look, at the end of the day, you're having a birthday.
Yes.
Okay, so right there, that's a chalk on the plus side.
Right.
I have never been, I'm 59. I'm going to be 60.
You got the milestone coming up in January. We must do something for that show.
Well, we'll see. I would just, all these things in life, this is the one life that we have. These are all milestones that you hit. And I've always felt like you need to embrace them, particularly since as the older you get, these milestones come faster and faster.
Right.
As long as you keep having them, that's a good thing. So, happy birthday.
Thank you. And we're breaking a family streak tonight because
I know, because they all died before 62.
Right. My dad, my father died. His father died. His father died all before the age of 62. So tomorrow or in a few hours, the good Lord willing, I'll be hitting a milestone which nobody in 3 generations in my family has.
Right. My family, they all live to 90 or higher, and they make you they make you they make you know it every second of the way.
Now, I notice we have marginal.
Well, look, here's the thing with SPC, with the Storm Prediction Center, because you and I, and we've talked about this a few times, how they always seem to be. I'm not trying to be disparaging to them at all. It's a tough job to do, but you see it one day, and then as you get closer, marginal risk becomes slight risk, and slight risk becomes enhanced risk. Well, the funny thing was this morning, I didn't think that there was a huge chance for severe weather today, so much so that I didn't even look at what their forecast was yesterday. So I happened to see it pop up on someone's news feed that they had this area of slight risk. So this morning, when I wrote about it, I said, well, SPC's got this slight risk of severe weather, but I really didn't think it was that big a deal.
Right.
So then an hour after I wrote that, they came out with an updated forecast where they basically expanded the slight risk to almost all of New England and all the way down. Actually, the area that you see in marginal risk now, that was most of the new slight risk.
Right.
There was more. So I just kind of went and looked at everything again and said, what am I missing? Am I missing something here? It just, to me, did not look like it was going to be a huge deal. And then all day long, they've had to pull back from that. So it's usually the other way around, playing catch-up. Today, it was kind of the other way where they're sort of, pulling back.
And I notice also in the southwestern states, New Mexico, and, those are the monsoons now, the seasonal monsoon. A lot of people who come from New York, and they go, let's say, to Arizona, New Mexico in July or August, they don't realize that at that particular time of the year, you can get these, kind of like what we had here locally. The heavy downpours.
Or the fact that when you go there, it's 100 degrees with a dew point of 65.
Right.
So you might as well stay home for that.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because we were talking about the thing with the whole situation with the river flooding. Just to let everybody know, even though we don't have any flash flood watches from Pennsylvania all the way down to the Florida Panhandle, there's this narrow band along the Appalachians where flash flood watches are up, and even some flash flood warnings now showing up in parts of southern Virginia and northwestern North Carolina. This area a lot of this area has gotten a ton of rain in the last 2 months, so the flash flood threshold is low, but with the way the upper trough set up, this is where the heavy rains wound up, as opposed to having them more on the coast. So, from that standpoint, I think
I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back, because this is exactly what we were talking about last week.
Right.
That we said that this week the trough, indeed, as you mentioned earlier, would be further west, and those areas that are underneath the watches and advisories will be getting hit, and sure enough, they are.
Let's just go through this real quick, Joe, because I do want to talk about something I thought was pretty interesting in the tropics, but not on our side. I thought, by the way, so we're in agreement the next 3 days, pretty much it's wash, rinse, repeat until this trough to the west. Let me just make sure everybody's seeing what they're supposed to see, which they are. Okay, so that trough to the west actually weakens and gets out of the way even faster than the one last week.
Right.
Big ridge builds from the Atlantic back westward into the southeast, so we actually get hot here Sunday, Monday, and maybe even some leftovers on Tuesday. And then here comes another trough. So, it looks like later next week we might see a fairly significant push of cool air, of cooler and less humid air. But we may have to wait till the latter part of next week and next weekend with this deep, monstrous trough.
This thing looks like it's running into that big subtropical ridge offshore
and then it gets
shearing off.
Yeah, that's what it does. It lifts up, and then the ridge comes back. Now we're at the middle of the month, and who knows what happens after that.
But the European is so much different in one aspect.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to go.
Yeah, let me bring that up.
Show that up, and so there's the one that we just showed.
Well, this is the new, and this is the European's view.
Right.
The European probably doesn't shear it out like the GFS does. Has that big ridge in the west, and has the Atlantic ridge a little bit further to the east.
And unfortunately, it only goes out to 240 hours as opposed to the 378 on the GFS. So we really don't know yet whether or not the ridge is going to expand like a balloon over the Great Lakes like the GFS is suggesting for late in the weekend into the not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Right.
We're looking out about 10 days plus. So.
Now, I want to bring this up because I think there's a chance of, Hawaii has been dealing with the eruption of the volcano there on the Big Island, and now way out to the east of the Hawaiian Islands, which you can see here off. It's more toward the up the left.
Right.
But go to the lower right. There's two cloud masses. So the one that's furthest to the west, that swirl you see there, is Tropical Storm Hector. And if you look at the clouds that are occurring, the way they're moving along Hector's latitude, they're all moving pretty much from east to west.
Right.
I think there's a fair chance that, well, two things. I think Hector probably, after tomorrow, probably strengthens to a hurricane. Then, after that, maybe in about 5 days or so, 5 or 6 days, it may get pretty close to Hawaii.
Right, right. And, you know, usually when Hawaii gets nailed by a heavy tropical cyclone, it's usually from something that happens in their general vicinity or their neighborhood. It's unusual to see something develop, let's say, off of Baja or the west coast of Mexico and work its way all the way to the Hawaiian Islands, because the waters around the Hawaiian Islands are usually much too cold to support that.
They're not, yeah, they're not as warm as everyone thinks. They're kind of right at the threshold.
Right.
25, 26, 27 C, something like that. You know, right at about 80 degrees, right at the border. And also, a lot of times in that part of the Pacific, you get these upper air storms that drop down north of Hawaii, and they create these, you know, strong wind shear environments. So these tropical systems, they get there, and then I've seen it happen so many times where they've had Category 3 or even Category 4 hurricanes within about several hundred miles, and then they're gone. Right. Within a day or two, they're gone. Right. Here's the, we'll put the GFS up here, and I'll put the surface so you can take a look. Here's the GFS's view. The models are all fairly similar at this point. This is where, that's not it though. Hold on. Oh, I'm way ahead of the game. That's after the fact. Okay, hold on. That's something else. Okay, here we go. So this is it now, and we'll just move it along. You can see that it just strengthens and moves west, or even on a course south of due west. Now I'm going to jump to the other region so you can see where it is with respect to Hawaii. So this is Sunday night. You can see where the big island of Hawaii is, and we've got Hector as with at least a strong Category 2 at this point, or probably, or at least a Category 2 hurricane. And then as we move into next week, about a week from today, it gets pretty close to the big island and kind of straddles the islands just to the south.
It comes very close to Kauai, and in the early 90s, I think it was 92 or 91, I think it's 92, they had Inoki, which really did a number on Hawaii, most notably Kauai, and that's a beautiful island.
Right, and that as I remember, that actually formed south of Hawaii,
right,
and then moved like almost straight northward or northeastward.
Right.
Yeah, that was, you know, Hawaii's got occasionally, as you said, it gets the storms that come in across the Pacific from the west, but they do occasionally get storms that form in their own region, and they're separate, nameless for this.
And in Honolulu, on the island of Oahu,
Honolulu, go on.
They have the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Now it's going to be interesting if this holds together, and it looks like it will. The National Hurricane Center in Miami, which has jurisdiction over this storm now, will have to hand it off.
Yeah, they hand it off when it crosses 140 degrees west.
Right. It still has the same name, but it's a different bunch of forecasters then working on this problem for Hawaii. And
that again, that's when it crosses 140 degrees west. So we'll watch that. That's at least something of interest. The Atlantic side, by the way, just really fast, Joe. There's nothing. There's really nothing here. If you look at the loop.
El Bordo.
Well, let me just make sure everybody can see it. Oh, come on. It's here somewhere. Nope, that's not it. Hang on, folks. All right, I'm there. Okay, it's sort of there. There we go. I get it eventually. All right. Well, a couple of things here, Joe. When you look at this loop, if you look toward the lower right, you can see a big swirl there off the east coast of Africa, and that's dust that it has in there. So there's another humongous area of African dust. Wow. If you look down to the south, you can see the intertropical convergence zone, the ITZCZ. There's some thunderstorms developing, but it's so weak looking.
Right.
It's just these little narrow blobs of thunderstorms running east to west. Granted, there's more there than there's been in the last couple of weeks, but You know, there's nothing here to me that suggests that anything's going to develop anytime soon. And if you look off the southeast coast, there's a big upper low in the upper atmosphere, so you got wind shear over there. So the Atlantic basin still remains in a position here where it's going to be inactive for at least a little while.
And how many of websites and Facebook pages did you and I look at a month or two ago of those who were forecasting or predicting that it was going to be an unusually active season?
Well, this is why, you know, this is why I can't get too wrapped up in these, you know, when we get these long-range forecasts out. And by the way, speaking of which, I've already seen the first long-range forecast for the winter.
Right.
It's the beginning of August, but no, they have the next, without saying who they is, but then they, you know, the next 6 to 9 months, we have it all figured out. Okay, you know, I'm not going to sit here and argue about it. It's just, long range is not my thing. I have never been able to get my head around it. As things have become more technical and there's more stuff out there to look at, I even more so cannot get my head around it. Well, I just kind of say, just let it happen and just let's get to it. When we get inside, you know, 2 weeks or 10 days, we can figure things out. But what's the point? What do I need to know that you know, the fall is going to be like this and the winter is going to be like that? I'm not moving anywhere anytime soon to avoid it.
You know, there was one local weather forecaster this past week who was telling everybody that he had predicted the thunderstorms or the unsettled stormy weather we had. Was it on Saturday or Sunday? We have see, all these weekends just like meld into one big month.
I know. You start having a really difficult
anyway,
time.
He was pointing out the fact that like 20 years ago, he's made lists of dates in the calendar for 20 years ahead of time. And for this past weekend, he just happened to mention that there was going to be unsettled, stormy conditions, and he kept pointing that out. He said, I'm going to tell people, we've been telling people to watch this. You know,
you might as well predict that the sun's going to rise and set.
Yeah.
I don't see what the value is. What does that mean? It's going to be unsettled this weekend because 20 years ago it was unsettled on this particular weekend?
You know, some people they look ahead 2 years for weddings.
But it doesn't,
you know?
I know, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
the summertime, the chance of a thunderstorm on any given day over the long haul is probably, it's good. Not zero. It's certainly not zero, right? So what do you,
it's a meteorological placebo. You know, if you're looking for something.
But there's no skill involved.
I know.
What's the skill score?
I don't know what the skill score is.
That's what I'm saying. There's no value to it. If there's to say, you know, I don't know.
There are people who have been saying that they've been predicting long range for 40 or 50 years, but I've never ever seen a lot of these people. You know, as you just mentioned, what is the skill score?
Right.
What are their, you know?
You know what will impress me? What will impress me is if you predict the apocalypse. Wait a minute. If you predict the apocalypse and you get it right. Because if you get it right, it's the apocalypse. You will never forecast again. Okay? You're done. You can only go up from there. All right, we got the top of the hour coming up. I know a lot of you folks were asking questions about, you know, who has block parties, who has graduation parties that I am invited to, and who has graduation parties that I'm not invited to. Who has the Jimmy Buffett concert tomorrow at Jones Beach?
Oh, okay.
And any host of a bunch of other questions as far as what the weather's going to be like. Here's the thing, and I'll say it again, okay? And you've said it too. I think you'll agree with me.
Right.
It's going to be very warm. It's going to be very humid. While there could possibly be a downpour at any time and anywhere, much of the time it will not be raining. And for probably, I would say, a majority of you, it may not rain at all any time in the next 4 days. But the risk is there. That's really the only thing I can say.
You have to mention this.
So you're rolling dice every day. The odds are in your favor, however, that you'll be able to do whatever it is that you've got planned or you're invited to. That there won't be any problems.
It's just like I've been saying with the baseball analogy, and that is, you know, when you go to a baseball game, there are going to be foul balls from the first to the ninth inning hit into the stands, and asking us where a thunderstorm is going to pop up tomorrow, precisely at the time that it does pop up, asking us that is in the same manner of trying to tell you during the game what inning any one of these foul balls are going to hit into a certain section of Citi Field or Yankee Stadium. It just cannot be done. You know that the odds and conditions are ripe for that to happen, but you just don't know where or when. Same thing with the forecast for the next few days. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sticky. I will say this for the person who is going to the Jimmy Buffett concert in Jones Beach. Long Island, of the R3 zones, Long Island, New Jersey, and Hudson Valley, Long Island seems to be the one spot that has the least chance for getting, let's say,
I totally agree with that. In fact, it may go... there may be times where it'll go partly to mostly sunny while it's pouring rain somewhere in Jersey.
Absolutely.
And that may happen
in
the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
That may happen tomorrow.
Right.
There seems to be a bit of a boilerplate sitting over Long Island, and there's nothing that out there that suggests to me that that's going to change anytime soon.
Hey, it's 9:53. We better go.
Right. You got a bunch of folks that wished you happy birthday, Joe, and I'm sure you're going to say... You're going to say many thanks indeed for all the wonderful wishes.
If I'm here tomorrow, I'll say that.
You are here tomorrow because you know, like George Burns, you don't have time to do anything else. Right. You're booked. All right. All right. FiOS One.
Palladium.
Right. FiOS One News, Long Island and New Jersey, coming up in 6 minutes.
Again, if you're watching this at 12:15 in the morning, not 6 minutes, but anyway.
Right.
And FiOS One News, Lower Hudson Valley, which is the most likely spot in the next few days of our FiOS One regions to get showers and storms, but this is not a promise either.
All right. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.